My 16-year-old son, David, went to a blood drive on June 24th, 2008, and I know this story in my sleep. My husband's been a 34-year volunteer blood donor. He's grown stem cells, granulocytes, all kinds of things for people with cancer. And so our son wanted to emulate his civic service and community service, and they went to a blood drive together at a skate park. They pricked David's finger as a preliminary test for the blood donation, and they told him he was anemic and couldn't give blood. And this is a 16-year-old kid who had grown a foot in a year. And he called me, he said, "Mom, I couldn't give blood today." And I was a little shocked and a little concerned, but not overly, because he seemed very healthy. So through a series of doctors on September 12th, 2008, we went to Children's Hospital with him to see a hematologist in the morning and an ENT doctor in the afternoon. And the oncology people knew we were going to be in the ENT clinic in the afternoon, and my husband just for some reason took a half day off. He said, "I'll go to the ENT appointment with you and David." Papers, and the hair went up on the back of my neck, and they took us in a room, and before we could even get to that room, I saw the two oncologists come walking in, and I thought, shit, he's sick. He's sick. What are they doing here? And they immediately escorted us to Children's Hospital and admitted him to the hematology oncology transplant unit. And David has MDS, myelodysplastic syndrome, which is average age 65 to 70. He shouldn't even have it. And he also had chromosome damage, trisomy 8. And so his only option of a cure was a bone marrow transplant, which in itself is life-threatening. So they started a worldwide search for a donor and tested my husband and I and his sister, but David had it, so they couldn't find a match. So my personality is such that I couldn't sit back and wait for them to search the world for a donor. I was going to find a donor. So with the help of my family and friends, we started David's Donors. And Dan Jansen, speed skater, is a very good family friend. He lost his sister to leukemia. She also had a transplant. And his ex-wife is my best friend, and she called him and said, "Dan, will you help Mary?" And he said, "Anything she needs." So we held a bone marrow registry at the Pettit National Ice Center, and we registered 555 people on November 1st of 2008. And out of that, we got 6 matches since that drive for other people in the world. But we knew we weren't going to get a match for David, but we thought somebody else would do something, we'd do the same, and we'd find a donor. Well, the doctors were getting nervous, and they said, "Mary, we're going to use you. You're his mother. You have cell and blood compatibility. You carried him in the womb, so you're going to be his match. We can't wait anymore." And I didn't feel good about it. I was, not because I didn't want to save his life, but I was, you know, my marrow's been around the block a few times. And you know, I was 54 at the time, and I wanted a 28-year-old like that guy back there, you know, who passed me about 5 hours. You know, you got here 5 hours before me. But there was no other choice. So I went and got my hair cut, my teeth cleaned, and my yearly mammogram, and found out I had breast cancer. And I couldn't be his donor. So now David's got cancer and no match, and I got breast cancer, and I never had one single moment of fear about having cancer. My only fear was that I might die and not be there to take care of David. So I went ahead with my surgeries, and it was stage 1, no notes, but it was a grade 3, and it was a triple negative, the most aggressive form of breast cancer. It couldn't just be, you know, take the lump out and go home. No, I had 6 months of brutal chemo and 33 rounds of radiation that fried my boob like a piece of bacon. And I finished in September. But during that whole time, I kept riding and running up the staircases at the hospital to stay in shape so I could take care of David. And he was in the hospital he had his transplant on February 20th. They finally found a donor in December of that year. And the night of David's transplant, I named him Earl, and I have it tattooed on my leg, David and Earl. That's the puzzle piece, 2 pieces of the puzzle coming together, David and Earl, 2/20/09. His real name's Ben Walker. And he's from Tampa, and we just met him and his family, and he's wonderful. But The day David got sick, I said to myself, I am not going to let this drag me and my family down. We are going to stay positive, we are going to move forward, and we're going to live strong. And I have lived that way since the David got diagnosed, even when it happened to me. But now what's happened is David's cancer came back in October into his marrow, and he's had 6 rounds of chemo. He got some of his donor cells. It's getting better. We keep going like this, forward, back, and I trained for this, and Thursday we found out that this last round of chemo didn't knock it all out, so he's starting chemo tomorrow. He wanted me to be here, and he said, Mom, go. He said, I'll be okay. We have a lot of people to help get him to the hospital every day because he'll have chemo every day this week. And I just said to Amy, when we rode in, my sister-in-law, I said, I want to be with David. I said, if he dies, I will have missed this week with him. But I think this week is important to people like you to know that you can get through these things and you could still have a life as a family and be strong despite the outcome. At least you're always trying and moving forward. So I would like to ask you all to ride for David tomorrow to send him strength to get through this week. So I have bracelets for everyone if you want one of David's donors. We have a website if you want to go to it when you get back home. I haven't updated it in a couple weeks, and I also have the LiveStrong stickers that say I ride for David Chesney. So if anyone wants it for their shirt or their helmet or bike.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone.